Hi everyone, it's Elaine Hamilton, and I have three more authors today for the Reiki Lights book that has already been launched. We're really super excited about it. And we wanted to carry on the conversation. I have Melanie, I
Hi.
have Meghna,
Hello.
and Stephanie.
I feel like I'm on a dating show.
Yes, exactly. And these are your readers. Doo-doo. So, one of the things that I've really noticed in not only writing the book, but also interviewing people afterwards for this little video thing, is the vast kind of differences that we came with. So there's 13 authors. We've all come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different start points with Reiki, and this is something I'd like to dig into in this interview. But essentially, the wonder, I guess, or the fun in writing Reiki Lights was really this connection of people that on the surface seem to have gone through very different paths. But when you read the stories, then you really start to notice that there's a kind of coming home, or there's a adjustment, and some of the adjustments are pretty big in terms of coming into a more authentic expression of your life path, which sounds funny because often when we look at Reiki, we look at Reiki as a complementary therapy or an energy healing modality, and we don't necessarily see it as a spiritual journey. But I think that for sure has been something we've all noticed. Those of us who've collaborated on this book and who've known each other a long time, we've really noticed this A to B journey that really is a very kind of spiritual quest in a sense. So I thought it would be nice to start off today because I've got three people who have been through and still going through transformation. And I thought I'd start with you, Melanie, in terms of your title, which I love, is from corporate slave to spiritual warrior. So give us a little snapshot of where you were right at the beginning of your Reiki journey and where kind of what that journey has led you to.
Um, yes. I mean, I like the title too. Um, it's sometimes when that's such a big question. Um, but I guess that's what the book, my chapter was about. It's from the beginning. I was in the corporate world and it was quite challenging. I felt like I didn't fit in and um, it was it just felt like I was a fish out of water. I didn't feel comfortable at work. And um, the change from then till now is big. It's really big. From discovering Reiki to practicing it to it being the catalyst for the change in me being interested in healing, in learning different modalities to heal myself. I think Reiki has really helped me um, with the journey. It has always been a part of the journey from the start to now, where I help people with healing. So I don't actually even recognize myself then, like so many years ago. I feel so different. And when I think about then, I can't even really quite believe it. I can't quite picture it, it's just I'm just such a different person now than before. So it's been quite a big transformation.
And do you feel it's been like when you say you feel like a different person, do you feel it like you've become more of the person you always,
Yes.
do you know what I mean? Like, do
Yes.
you think it's
Yeah.
like an unveiling of your true self, or do you think you've had a
Um,
complete
yeah.
personality shift?
I think it's it's more like letting go of what I'm supposed to be. I felt like throughout my life I was building up some kind of persona, to be successful. And like I had to be so many things to survive in a corporate world. There was certain sort of like personalities that I'm supposed to be. Like I'm supposed to be really on the ball and really aggressive and really getting things done and really in control. And but that caused so much stress. And all the healing and Reiki really helped me to kind of shed those kind of ego type personalities, and I feel so much more myself than ever before. It's really more like coming home to myself or coming back to who I really am. I think that's what the healing, all that has done.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, this is definitely the main theme of the book, right? When we read everybody's chapters, it's and it's curious to me as well how we get forced with all these personas that build up around us. And oftentimes we don't even realize, right? Until we start doing our Reiki. And then we realize, oh, that stress is the faking it. That's
Yes.
the stress, right? It's having to
That takes
fake
so
it.
much energy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. So I'm going to move on to Stephanie. So, because Stephanie, you've had a massive change, but there's still a little bit of like going on. So tell us a little bit about that.
So the title, I think, is actually the result of our discussion. Okay, because I couldn't name my chapter, and a bit different from the rest of the writers. I actually started as a doctor, so already in the healing mode. Okay. However, instead of practicing, I chose the research part and in the pharmaceutical industry. Okay, so my life then has been surviving in a corporate mode, but also trying to make sure that if we do any research, there are data, tons of data, making sure it's analyzed correctly. So working in a very rational framework, okay? And trying to heal people along the way, okay? And getting frustrated because it's not making things easier or shorter, but actually longer, right? Because clinical trials can take years before we can use the drugs on patients. So yeah, so I was hoping by going through the R&D pathway, I can have the drugs, quicker reaching the right patient. Instead, it actually takes longer and longer. Okay, and I have to go through very logical, rational process of proving that it actually works. Okay, so halfway through my career, a good friend of mine, an IT person nonetheless, okay, asked me to go along with her to a Reiki workshop.
Mm.
And I was like, what are you, pulling me into? And because she paid for me, I followed the first one and I continue with her until actually I became a master at that time. Okay. But it was getting more and more scary for me because as I went into the master level, most of the Reiki master, at least back in Indonesia, has a more shamanic mode, so a lot of the attunement, etc., goes with a lot of flowery things. So, nah, not for me. And I forgot about Reiki for about 14 years. And as you can read in the book, I got the neurological autoimmune disease. Nothing works in terms of Western medicine. I remembered Reiki, got interested in Elaine's online classes because I didn't want to come into a room yet with people and decided, okay, why don't I continue? Okay, so Reiki 1, 2, 3 again, and then Master here in Singapore, and here I am with you guys. So
Yeah.
when I wrote the book, I was like, okay, this is a very different mindset now compared to when I was Master 14 years ago, number one. But number two, there's still inner conflicts about what I can read, what I can write and say, okay? Especially since I'm usually presenting in scientific mode, right? In conferences, journals, medical discussion. And now I'm talking about energy and well-being. Okay. So yeah, it's an ongoing process for me, but at least I know I can write it down and I can read it, reread it without going, "Ee." So that's where I am.
So when Melanie is kind of saying, well, it's almost like a kind of letting go of all those personas, where do you think that your internal struggle is? Like, do you think you have two quite clear personas you're trying to fit together, or do you feel it's just a process of becoming more accepting of this more spiritual or energetic part of yourself?
Okay, so medical school and afterward was a really long process of adapting to a lifestyle, right? So instead of being put into a place where it doesn't fit. I actually was molded into it.
Wow.
So when all the other gifts and capabilities came out, actually I have to adapt to the new version and letting it both balance it out. So right now, even though I know that these clients come for Reiki or energy healing, I will start it automatically with Western medicine. Okay, all the trainings come forward first, and then I work energy on top of it. Okay, so where am I is now I can accept and even offer a more comprehensive healing for clients, and not just clients for other things. Okay, and instead of taking two steps back and I don't want to do that. Okay, and I'm like, let me try first. Okay, if it's not too weird, okay, I'll continue.
Interesting. Interesting. So there's been a kind of molding in terms of your training, your physician training, your medical training, but then there's also been, and I'm guessing the Reiki's been instrumental in that, this arising of a more intuitive sense of how you can also help people on that level as well, right? So
Yeah.
it's more holistic in a sense.
And
Yeah.
for some cases, and I think that's part of the training I got, I always have very difficult clients, meaning people already in ICU,
Yeah.
cancer, late stages. So I can see where Western medicine stops
Yeah.
and where I can help more, until the end. Yeah, and that part is the stage that actually changed my mindset the most.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Interesting. Because you have all of that great medical background, and now you can offer, like you say, when the Western medicine or allopathic medicine can no longer really do anything, then you can add a huge amount to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, really nice. Meghna, on to you. So you're kind of also in like the Reiki, you've been working with Reiki a long time, hey?
Mhm. I mean, I call it my longest relationship. So it's over 25 years. Yeah. When I first discovered and experienced Reiki too, I have had three Reiki teachers culminating with the Reiki Center way back in 2014, 2015. So yeah, I feel like it's been a theme in my life for a long time.
Mm. And walk us through your transformation, because you said that you also felt that you went through a transformation just with the writing of your chapter as well.
It is indeed. And so I think like any relationship, considering it's, the span of over 25 years, from just, playing around with it to actually wanting to learn it to, different teachers and then the master journey itself. I feel like obviously the whole series is full of transformation chapters, right? When you look back at your life. But I think what writing this book or putting my hand up to say, yes, I think I want to do this. I couldn't have been in the worst possible headspace work-wise when I put my hand up. And maybe that's why I put my hand up because I needed to be part of something bigger than all my drama and stress and, And um, I feel like we started in maybe 6, 7 months back when we thought of the idea to, and in this whole duration, one, I think I was able to take stock of my journey, which perhaps I had never had, or where I started, what all it took. You kind of watching it like a movie a little bit. I think your poking and prodding, Elaine, helped because, I think I had forgotten bits and pieces of the journey. And I think the chapter really, because you were pushing us to be more vulnerable and to be more clear and candid, it just brought up things that perhaps I hadn't even realized along the journey of how Reiki has helped me. So I think what it helped me in writing over the last, especially the last 5 months, the beginning of the year, is again rediscover that little warrior of me, that little fearless me, because I do know that I always was very intuitive. It's not something that happened to me, and I think Reiki was just kind of very gently guiding me again and again to look within. And to use one kind of what Melanie said, I realized there were parts of my life I was being so performative, including at work, personally. And that little, that little child in me who just always was curious and full of wonder when I first started going hiking, trekking, I think that was my experience of Reiki, just nature, being one with nature. It really gave me permission. I think I just needed to give myself permission to dream and to really understand where my heart was guiding me. And, why I don't know, it's weird. And I think because you're older, you're a little bit more jaded, or you've kind of perhaps imbibed so much of the noise around you, right? And for me, I think I've had two chapters of, I left Singapore, pursued, built a thriving Reiki practice, and then I went back to corporate work. And now I'm again at that very interesting crossroads where this time I'm like really like, ready to fly. And I think I got goosebumps just saying it because that's the transformation journey. And I think this group, the collaboration, the checking in, just reading the other chapters, oh my God, it was like, what are you waiting for? I mean, you have to trust. Trust is a verb. You have to, I mean, trust and nervousness can coexist. I am nervous, but it's a good nervousness. So it's almost like you're back to 18, 19, the world is in front of you. And I think it helps you also in that phase of life where you're going through your whole, physical changes, menopause, all those things. So I think it's really bringing out this new skin and new spirit and 2.0 version, like I call it. So yeah, that's transformation in a nutshell, I guess. And
Mm,
I'm very, very grateful for this project and for all of you to just, it's kind of felt like very held and, very guided in a lot of ways. So yeah.
nice. Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost like when you're doing Reiki, when you're doing your own self-healing, when you're doing it with, so there's different layers, right? So you could do the
Mhm.
self-healing and you could just do it for stress management. And lots of people do it like that, or for healing when you feel sick, or healing your loved ones when they feel sick. And it can be a very superficial, just energy, and it's like a band-aid, It's like I don't feel
Yeah.
well, just do a bit of
Yeah.
Reiki, feel better, off I
Very
go.
high level, as we call it in corporate. High
And
level healing.
right, it's just kind of like doo, 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 doo. And then for some reason, and it's funny actually, because when we started writing the book, I was kind of thinking, I wonder if we'll get to the crux of the matter, which is why some of
Mm.
us just keep going when most people are just bouncing around the top. It's like, oh, I feel better now, I'll just carry on with my life. And yet, for some reason, we all went, no, more, 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 deeper, deeper, deeper. I don't know if anyone's got any thoughts around that.
If I can weigh in, it's like, my whole chapter and journey, I call it from doing Reiki to being Reiki. When I was teaching, this theme came out then because I was also drawn to a lot of, Dr. Usui's contemplative, reflective, meditative aspects. And it's like a lot of Eastern practices, they need to go west to become popular and then come back to the East. Yoga has gone through the same thing, transformation or so it is a relationship, right? You have to get to know in relation to how is Reiki, what is Reiki for me. And I think that is a very key aspect of you know how it unfolded in my journey as well. So I don't know if I answered your question. I went somewhere else.
So just like a deeper relationship, which also sounds funny when you're talking about energy healing, right? Like
Relational.
a relationship with what?
Doing, right? I feel like that's what it is because unless you do and then you sense something, then you're encouraged to okay, maybe, and maybe others are not because they're distracted or they have other things they like doing. But I think all practices come to the same point that it needs a state of being. You need to be more present, whether it's running or jogging and gymming. Somewhere I think that stillness kind of seeps in. And I think Reiki for us perhaps just was that key thing. And it's not like I chose, okay, let me try Reiki. It was literally an inner knowing. And that's why I had three teachers, right? It kept coming back to me like it wasn't done. I did do other pursue other modalities as well, even within Reiki. But somehow I feel like the gentleness of it, and then a lot to do with, working with my animal, with my pets. I think I've written about it a little in my chapter. It's almost like it'll help you as much as you allow it to, you know. So if you're
Yeah.
ready,
Mm.
I would echo that as
It's a very
well.
nice.
Yeah, it would. And if you're not, and if you're just going to keep looking for, okay, what next, because healing has also become so prescriptive, right? In this day and age, people want 3 sessions to cure my, and I'm sure Stephanie has a lot of stories there. It's not about cure, right? That whole distinction between what is healing and what is cure. So I think people are far more aware than I see the millennials and the Gen Zs. I think there's a lot more awareness
Mhm.
um,
There's a
compared to
lot
when
of
I started.
potential, right, to it actually. It's exactly like you said, it will only help you as much as you allow it to. And
Mhm.
that openness, I think, makes a difference. And the practice, like you said, practicing it is a practice after all, right?
Yeah.
And when you don't practice, you would lose it. But it's so easy to come back to it. And I think that's what has even surprised me in coming back to it all the time, that it takes me further and deeper into the healing. And
Mm.
and like you said, the presence as well of when you do it, somehow being open to it, it's also somehow, in the initial stages, it's first aid, and then it's calming, and then it's relaxing, and then when you continue, somehow it gets to deeper causes, like the root cause of healing even, or to even, for me, helping me harmonize other healing and even integrating, different parts of the healing work that I have done. So it has so much potential, and that's what I love about it.
Part of the guidance I really appreciate for all of us is that you told us to look for cases, instances in our journey where the triggers come, okay, and how we respond to it. And in each of the story, I think we managed to pinpoint where the Reiki journey actually give us the opportunity to move forward,
Mm.
and we said yes to it. I think the people who stop halfway probably are either not responding to the trigger, okay, or it's not their time yet. Okay, so if we look at the stories, I think most of us has something somewhere, whether it's positive or negative, that make us okay. Let's continue on with this Reiki journey.
Yeah.
And it amazed me that people are the writers are pretty honest and open in writing it down. I was like, whoa, okay, this is not something you usually hear from people. Okay,
Yeah.
and even in the depth of, let's say, difficulties, traumatic events, they found something to hold on. And in our case, I think it's Reiki in some aspect. Okay, and in writing this book, they are courageous enough. All of us are courageous enough to write it down for people to read.
Yeah.
Okay, so that struck me first when I read the draft and thinking, okay, if everybody is this honest, okay,
Let's go.
we,
Let's do it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But I think that's also really important because it's very easy when you go and see a teacher who has been doing a modality for a while and they seem all calm and life is good. And we do this as well, right? When we go in and we're teaching, of course, we're going to put our best selves forward. And we're also going to talk about how amazing Reiki's been in our life. But we're not necessarily going to share all the challenge and the heartbreak and the grief and the all that other stuff, because in a sense that's not really appropriate when we're teaching Reiki, and in another sense you might scare newbies away because they're thinking, oh my god, I don't want to have to go through this. So I think that the other thing about the book that has been so rewarding is the, like you say, the depth and the vulnerability and the showing that even if, like for you guys, even if you don't necessarily look at Reiki and then you're like, this is it, and this is my savior, and all that stuff, you have to keep coming back, or you might have a different teacher, or you might come back and it's a bit deeper. And that's the journey, right? It's not a straight line.
Yeah, I think it's not giving up, right? Because I did encounter Reiki a few times before I finally learned it. Um, I think in the book I wrote, it took more than 10 years for me to really learn Reiki. So I think it's like it's not ignoring that kind of question inside that I had about it, the curiosity and and coming back to it,
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's a
not
bit like
giving up.
Meghna said, right? It's kind of like it wasn't done with me yet. I had to
Yeah,
do three
yeah.
teachers.
Also, I think another thing, because I mean, when we talk about this theme of coming home, I think another thing which was surfacing for me, especially because I spoke about the last few months, is the unraveling, right? Like there is pieces of us. I mean, and it is a lifetime. Some people perhaps just wake up all and also what does all these what do the words mean? What does enlightenment mean? What does awakening mean? I think it's all just becoming more aware of your patterns, what's taking you away from your true self. Without, these words, I think were far more had become woo woo a couple of decades back, and now they're becoming real again thanks to a lot of scientific study. I mean, I love the whole Dr. Bruce Lipton and so they're bringing the science into energy healing, and I think my experience of it was that it wasn't woo woo. I'm a very practical, rational person. While nobody who knows me would have thought that I'm like, oh, one of those woo-woo people. But I feel like that's what attracted people to me to learn from me. I'm a regular person. I'm not like claiming to be anyone with special magical powers and all of that. And I think it's very important to make that, normal, that people, are going through their own journeys with life, and all of our stories are so different. The only thing common is Reiki, and what is Reiki. And I think that's what's so beautiful for me reading everyone's chapters. Like it was, I think I further deepened my understanding again. Uh, so yeah, it's beautiful that unraveling is the word that was coming up, unfolding perhaps. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I love everyone's stories and how diverse they are. So that's why there's something for everyone, right? In a sense, because of how different everyone's stories is. And I'm so proud to be a part of it, to be one of the 13 different stories, and how they kind of, I don't know, just strike a chord with me, each one of them, so different, but yet you can relate to the Reiki that has touched everyone's lives, the impact it has had, that's it. I just found it really beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. It's very heartwarming when you read it, and it is funny because on the top it feels very different, but you'll notice that everybody is using similar words to try and describe this feeling of kind of clicking into place. It's kind of like click, oh, that feels better. Click, oh, that feels better. And there's just this, yeah, it's a very curious to me, it's a very curious exploration, I guess, as to how the simple act of putting our hands on our bodies can do that. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm sure, Stephanie, you must have sleepless nights thinking about this as a doctor. You're like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, I spent years trying to explain to my clients and friends actually why I'm taking that pathway. And I actually had change industry just to, take out one of the stressors. So right now, I'm not in the job where I have to defend Western medicine. Still working in corporate, but yeah, part of the thing I see as helping my clients and myself in Reiki is taking our taking the decisions and in our hands to keep ourselves healthy physically and mentally. Okay, so lots of the client I been interesting, mostly women. Okay, usually come with, but I don't know what to do. Okay, there's no way out. I have to wait until my husband agree, and I'm like, okay, so I guess mental issue first. Okay, why do you have to wait? Why do you have to ask? Okay, can you actually make your own decision? And so I, instead of saying it like that and going through psychological treatment, I went with, okay, so come into yourself first. Using Reiki. Once they feel stable, calmer, okay, then can you look at it objectively? So it's interesting that once that mindset gets changed through Reiki meditation, etc., then they start solving their own issue. And I'm like, okay, your package done. Do you still need more?
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, actually. It's just as they come into a more centered place, then they can make more valid decisions, I guess, or clearer decisions.
And self-empowerment. That's what
Yeah.
I love.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I think you've just wrapped it up in a nutshell. It really is the self-empowerment aspect of Reiki that is often overlooked in the way that Reiki can often be taught. That Reiki sometimes I think has gone either too woo-woo or it's gone too use it as a therapy to help heal others rather than that we've all found the central benefit of Reiki is really about self-empowerment and what you do with that once you realize that you're self-empowered, what decisions you actually take to change it. Yeah.
Can add one anecdote in the book. Actually, I had a business trip in Vietnam, Elaine, far away from hospital, clinic. The hotel didn't have enough. I didn't have anything except my hand because the medicine I brought wasn't for that kind of disease. So that's the only thing I could offer, Reiki. Okay, and hoping that the guy stabilized until morning. Okay, so he stayed alive, stayed calm. We all could sleep, and I was like, oh my God! Now without stethoscope and drugs, I can help people. Okay, so that's also a very strong self-empowerment for me too as a healer.
So I think this has been a super interesting conversation, and I'm always fascinated by the people that come together. Like the three of you have come together with with certain themes and this idea of that it doesn't matter how long it takes. There's an unfolding journey. You can come back and you can deepen anytime. So even if you are one of those people that's bouncing around the top, seeing Reiki more as a stress management tool, this book is really an invitation, and hopefully these conversations have inspired you to really deepen your own practice. And if you're new to Reiki, then please pick up the book because I think it will give you a huge insight as to the potential of this modality. And obviously, we haven't even talked about the tips and the tools and all that stuff, which is a great big chunk of the part 2 of the book. But there's a lot of information there as well to help inspire your practice. So from the 4 of us, thank you. I'd like to thank you guys so much for joining me on this chat. And hope to speak to you soon on different topics. And for those of you who are watching or listening, thank you so much. And I really hope you enjoy the book. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.